Hello and welcome to News Now. I'm your host, Taylor Inman. We're going over the week's biggest headlines for Northwest Montana. A man who set a wildfire and then fatally shot 2 firefighters and wounded another in northern Idaho was a 20-year-old transient who attacked the first responders after they asked him to move his vehicle, according to the Kootenai County Sheriff. Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Norris offered new details about the Sunday ambush at Canfield Mountain just north of Coeur d'Alene, a popular recreation area. He said Wes Rowley was living out of his vehicle, had once aspired to be a firefighter, and had only a handful of minor contacts with area police. He said they have not been able to find a manifesto, adding that a motive is still unknown. Norris said families of the victim are in shock and still processing the tragedy. Rowley had set a fire using flint, and the firefighters who rushed to the scene instead found themselves in an unexpected shootout. They took cover behind fire trucks, but 2 of them died and a third was wounded during the barrage of gunfire over several hours. Norris said Rowley later killed himself. He said they knew Rowley was a transient who lived there for the better part of 2024, but little else is known about why he moved to the Coeur d'Alene area. 2 helicopters converged on the area on Sunday, armed with snipers ready to take out the suspect if needed, while the FBI used his cell phone data to track him, and the sheriff ordered residents to shelter in place. They eventually found Rowley dead in the mountains with his firearm beside him. Rowley's grandfather, Dale Rowley, told KXLY-TV that his grandson was an avid hiker who worked for a tree company and was interested in forestry. Outpouring of support for the victims was swift in Coeur d'Alene, a city of 55,000 residents near the border with Washington. Hours after the ambush, people gathered along Interstate 90 holding American flags to pay their respects as the 2 fallen firefighters' bodies were taken to the medical examiner's office in Spokane, Washington, about 35 miles from Coeur d'Alene. Governor Brad Little on Monday ordered U.S. and Idaho state flags to be lowered to half-staff to honor the firefighters until the day after their memorial service. The Idaho House Republican leadership said in a statement, quote, "We are horrified by the murder of 2 firefighters in Coeur d'Alene and shocked by such a vicious attack on our first responders. We are praying for them, the injured, their families, and their colleagues." Though the shelter-in-place order was lifted, the sheriff's office cautioned residents to be prepared because the fire was still burning. Firefighters were still battling the blaze Monday, a task made difficult because it was burning in steep terrain, which limited the use of heavy equipment, according to the Idaho Department of Lands in a news release. It had burned about 26 acres. Bigfork Fire Department rescued 2 out-of-state visitors after their vehicle went over a cliff on Jewel Basin Road last week. The vehicle plunged 400 feet and rolled several times before coming to a stop at the bottom of an embankment on June 26, according to the fire department. Crews responding to the scene near the Camp Misery trailhead found 2 people yelling for help below the road. The Jewel Basin Road is rugged and narrow, with some areas only wide enough for 1 vehicle. Sections of the road are steep as it climbs to the busy parking area for popular hiking trails such as Mount Aeneas. There were only minor injuries reported. The passengers of the rental car wore seatbelts and their airbags deployed, according to fire officials. They got out of the car but couldn't get up the hill because of the steep terrain and heavy underbrush. Crews responded with 350 feet of rescue rope to reach the 2 people, then placing them in harnesses and helmets. It was a slow process to get them both up the hill due to the many downed trees, thick brush, and other obstacles, according to officials. The rescue took 2.5 hours in total. Montana Highway Patrol assisted in the response. The car was recovered after a lengthy extraction by Bolster's towing of Kalispell. Photos from the scene show the Nissan Altima's front end completely crushed. On Facebook, fire officials credited their nonprofit partner, Friends of Bigfork Fire Department, for purchasing the rope used in the rescue. The post said crews have been training with the new rope since it was bought last year. State wildlife officials are upping local harvest quotas for whitetail deer to combat a recent outbreak of chronic wasting disease in the Flathead Valley. Officials first received reports of a sickly buck at the Flathead County landfill in October 2024. Samples from the euthanized animal later tested positive for chronic wasting disease, marking the first known occurrence in Hunting District 170, which encompasses most of the Flathead Valley. To date, 17 samples from the district have tested positive for chronic wasting disease, all from whitetail deer that were killed in and around the landfill. Even a few localized cases of the disease is cause for concern, according to Neil Anderson, supervisor for Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks Region 1. He says it's different from a lot of diseases in that it's established. Both incurable and highly contagious, chronic wasting disease is nearly impossible to eradicate once it is spread to an area. Deer, elk, and moose can contract the 100% fatal neurological disease through animal-to-animal contact, including contact with an infected carcass, as officials believe to have occurred in the Flathead County landfill. Now, state wildlife officials are focused on minimizing chances for those contacts to occur in the Flathead Valley, thereby stalling further progression of the disease. Key to that plan, said Anderson, is the hunting community. To cull local herds to a more manageable size, hunters will have the potential to harvest 4 whitetail deer from Hunting District 170 this year, up from a potential 2 in previous years. In addition to a general license, hunters can purchase up to 2 170 antlerless white-tailed deer B licenses for the district, and an over-the-counter B license for white-tailed deer in the newly established Kalispell Chronic Wasting Disease Management Zone, which extends for about a 5-mile radius from the landfill. While killing deer to save them may seem counterintuitive, Dylan Tablish, the agency's regional communication lead, said, that immediate reduction in population helps offset the chances for much more catastrophic losses from the disease in the future. Wildlife managers implemented a similar strategy when chronic wasting disease was detected near Libby in 2019, offering hunters an additional license to harvest whitetail deer from areas from the surrounding town. Anderson attributed the increased hunting pressure as one reason the disease rates has remained low in rural deer herds, hovering around 3 to 5%. He says it's one of the few places where chronic wasting disease have been found in the state where they haven't seen a dramatic increase. Increasing the number of deer harvested also gave biologists more opportunities to collect samples and track the spread of the disease. Animals in the early stages of chronic wasting disease often appear healthy. To confirm infection, biologists must extract and test the animal's lymph nodes. Usually these samples are obtained from hunters who stop at one of the state's numerous check stations. Anderson is hopeful that, with the additional harvest licenses, biologists will get enough samples from the Kalispell area to paint a clearer picture of the disease and its prevalence in the Flathead Valley. There are no known cases of chronic wasting disease transmission to humans, but the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention encourage hunters to test all animals from locations where it is known to occur and discourage eating meat from infected animals. Hunters may apply for a replacement tag if the deer they harvested tests positive for chronic wasting disease. The Fish and Wildlife Commission will likely vote on whether to mandate testing for deer harvested within the Kalispell Chronic Wasting Disease Management Zone in the coming months. Anderson said the agency is also working with the county to construct a fence around the landfill. Hunters throughout the state are encouraged to use carcass disposal sites to help minimize the spread of the disease. Thanks for joining us. News Now is a podcast from the Daily Interlake. We're proud to be the largest independent newsroom in Montana and the longest continuously published newspaper in the region. Today's stories were written by Associated Press reporters Manuel Valdes and Lindsey Wasson, as well as Daily Interlake reporters Jack Underhill and Haley Smalley. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode of the pod. Everybody stay safe and have a great week. Thanks to our sponsor, Lauren's Auto Repair at 1309 U.S. Highway 2 in Kalispell. Most consistently rated 5-star shop serving the Kalispell area. Visit lawrensauto.com.